Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to you sincere Alkiam. It's a brother Paya Allah, and I'm going to go in this video, I'm basically going to go into some imagery from the west coast of Africa, some Nigerian, well, specifically Yoruba kings, and I wanted to show some images that basically will go against the what Esau's pumped out about so-called Africans, which really are Israelites. You know, I want to show you that everything that's being shown as a stereotype is a total and utter lie. And the reason why it is because it will totally uplift the people that are from that part of that region of Africa, and as well would uplift the people that also so-called they call Africans, and they market showing them as Africans by having pot belly, you know, starving Hamites and all that kind of stuff. But I want to start with this. This is Revelations 12:1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now that woman is talking about the nation of Israel. When you read Jeremiah 6:2, it tells you how Israel is likened unto a woman. And then it says crown with 12 stars. The 12 stars represent the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Okay? And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. Okay, this is talking about when the Romans were occupying the nation of Israel. Okay? Persecuting us. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. And that's talking about NATO and the EU. If you know anything about the book of Revelations, it jumps around in different parts of into different parts of prophecy, and that's in accordance with Isaiah 28, where it tells you precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. And that's the way the Lord built the Bible. Alright, so verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. It's talking about the Romans. Okay? The third part of the stars of heaven is talking about the kingdom of Judah, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because they were the people that remained in the land after the other tribes went over to the Western world, the New World, over to America. Alright? A place where they could follow the laws better without no hindrance from no one else. So it reads, and did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered. The dragon, as I said before, this is talking about the Romans. The dragon represents the Romans, okay? Stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And that's how Herod did when you read in the book in the gospel. Herod, when the wise men came from the west, and they said they wanted to worship Yahweh Shai, which shows you that worshiping Yahweh Shai is the right thing to do. He diligently sought to understand where it was so he could slay him. Alright? And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Revelations, the 2nd chapter, tells you about that. So the nation of Israel, out of the nation of Israel came forth Yahweh Shai, okay? Which is our king, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He's the power that's ruling all over this entire universe underneath Yahweh, alright? And the child was caught up onto the Most High and to his throne. That's right, because after he died, he descended into the heaven. He said in Acts, the 1st chapter, it tells that he went up to Yahweh and he sat on the right hand side. It tells you that in Psalms as well, King David said about that, the Lord said unto my Lord, sit on my right hand side until I make my enemies your footstool. So that's why he's on the right hand side until he comes back in accordance with prophecy of Revelations, the 1st chapter. Alright? And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, and that they should feed her 1,260 years. So when it says the woman fled into wilderness, that's talking about when in 70 AD, when you had the Flavian dynasty, headed by Domitian at the time, or Titus, I believe, because you had the Ark of Titus, to basically in Rome to commemorate that, but really it was done by a wicked ass Israelite basically that really did it, but they took the credit. Okay, so when it happened, they fled each and every way, to the north, to the south, to the west, to the east. They fled every way, but majority of our people went into. A lot of our, I won't say the majority, but a lot of our people fled into the interior to Africa. So I want to get this information out of from Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Winter, and it reads: in the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. Okay, that's what we said before. So, and this is talking from the time of 65 BC up until 70 AD. That's around 70 or 105 years about that time. So it's saying that whole period, there was many slaves that were captured in Jerusalem from the time of General Pompey up until the time of General Vespasian and his son Titus, put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. So that goes back into the persecution that we read in the prophecy of the book of Revelations. Okay. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. That's right. As you see today, when you deal with Esau, the Lord deals with reincarnation. What happened before happened again. There's no new thing under the sun. So I see Esau with his wicked experiments like Tuskegee, and how he showed no mercy on Black Wall Street, bombing that. You know, I believe that's the only terrorist act that was ever committed on. They so-called say that, you know, like the only time America dropped bombs
on their own land,
on their own land, yeah, was that actual event. Okay. So that shows you how wicked they are. Many outrages and atrocities that were committed. That actually, you know, that should activate your mind to kind of understand what was being said, and the state of Judea, as it was called under Roman occupation, was known for being rebellious. Okay. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. Now that's talking about Pompey to Julius. That's a short amount of time. Okay, so 1 million Jews fled into Africa. So it's saying 1 million. We're talking. This is 2,000 years ago. 1 million Jews would have ran into the interiors of Africa, and they would have gone every which way according to their company. But for the most part, the bulks landed on the west coast of Africa to serve out the prophecy that followed afterward, where it said that there was a place prepared where they'll be fed for times and times, because that's talking about America. So that was in order for the transatlantic slave trade to happen. There had to be many of the Israelites on the west coast of Africa, basically. Okay. So Jews fled into Africa, fleeing the Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves or Israelite slaves. So that's in the Bible. Now I want to get into these images. If you come forward, bro. Now this is a Russian icon. I forgot the name of it, but these are all mixed together, the Russian icons along with the West Coast jakes. But you're gonna see. Now this is a king from Nigeria. Now that looks pretty much like a medieval garment. He's got the crown in his head, the scepter. Obviously it's tailored to the west coast of Africa. You know, that's his staff, and he's got a scepter. He's decked out with a long garment, not looking like anything they show you on the media, man. You don't see images of like this of jakes from the west coast of Africa. All right.
And he's got the lion there as well.
Yeah, got the lion underneath.
Yeah.
And Apostle Star, this king in particular is actually from Bekuta. He's not a king, outright king of. He's a Yoruba king, but he's not the king of kings of Yoruba people. Basically, he's one of the kings of a clan. Okay, because in the Yoruba people you have different clans, and each clan has allocated land. So he's the actual king of a land, the allocate of Egba land, which they call it. So it's actually, yeah, it's where my actual family, my mum's side, from this part of Nigeria. Okay, so he's on a king, on a lion. So again, that goes back to what Apostle Star said about the Nigerians being Judas. You know. Okay, this is him. I believe they said this is when he went to England. Okay, so he met. Let's him out there. And again, this is during the time of colonialism, because you see the Negro there with the wig on, like the justice systems, which is funny because he don't need to be wearing that. He can grow his own hair and have hair like that anyway. Because the reason why Esau wears those wigs is because during the time of the Dark Ages, you had black people set up as the judges in England. Okay, so these kings were showing you they actually look like medieval kings, and it's funny because because they're one and the same. The kings that were ruling in England and throughout all of Europe were akin to the kings that are ruling on the west coast of Africa. Alright? So that's another image. And you see the similarities in the garment, the crown, everything similar to the Russian icon. Alright? Same thing there. So this is another one of the same king. Or maybe a different king. Clothed with a garment, the same embroidery. That will go back to the time when we were in the land of Israel. Okay, he's got his staff, and that's actually a traditional Yoruba. I forgot what it's called, man, but you can look it up with traditional Yoruba wear. But you can see the king decked out with a chain and a royal garment. So this ain't nothing like they depict on the TV. Okay, again, this is him with his basically his I don't know what to call it, but I'll just say I'm shade bearer. Okay, shade bearer. Decked out the same way. Even you see he's decked out with what looks like some costlier garments. Alright, and this is another king. And you can see this garment is slightly different, but it's the same. This reminds me similar to the first one I showed you. The same kind of design, you know. Decked out of rings, all of that. Nothing, they don't show nothing like this. Alright? And that's Constantine. Similar kind of garments. To the Dark Ages, similar garments again. Okay? So I want to get this last scripture. Actually, wait there. Let me just show you this. Now, this is what they usually depict. Just I googled Africans. First thing that comes up is starving, poor, blue eyes, dying, dancing, and really they got a lot. You got some Jakes there, but soldiers. So that's really the main point is starving, poor, and dying is what is commonly associated with Africans, which they try to associate us as being Africans. We don't have none of these Hamitic fashions like this shit here, the plaits and lip and all that kind of shit can be related to Jake in Africa, whether the West Coast, East Coast, down south or Middle Africa. Okay. So again, some Hamites there, but then you might have Jakes among these different tribes though. But for the most part, those are Hamitic tribes. I believe these are South African. Canaanites, yeah. It looked like Canaanites. Yeah. And that's Kenyan. I believe that's a Kenyan people. And South African, I can tell by the leopard.
It's a Cushite.
It's a Cushite right there. He looks South African to me, man. You got one of them hammer, you know they got them head shapes, man. But you got Jakes in the mix as well. You got brothers there, you could tell they're Jake, and you got the infamous
the man himself.
The man himself, you know, kicking down doors and setting up laws in America. Anyway, so as you can see, there's a blatant difference between the two. And this is a Jake woman, with the head wrapper she's wearing. I'm guessing because now the tribes don't necessarily dress distinctively in accordance with their tribe no more. But this is actually a Yoruba form of dress, the head wrapper. Alright? And you can see she's a Jake, a beautiful Jake at that. I'll give her 2 kids and 1 nut, man. But anyway, let me close off on this scripture. And then I'll call it a day. Alright, this is Exodus 11:7. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. So as you can see, I outlined there was a key difference between the two by showing you the royalty of the west coast of Africa, specifically Nigeria. But if the Lord will, I've got more images on Ghanaian kings, because Ghanaian kings actually look more decked out than the Nigerian ones. And I might go into other kings as well, because Ghana was formerly known as the land of the Gold Coast. So that's where, if you see the kings and the princes, man, they were decked out. The princes look more decked out than most of the kings on the west coast of Africa. So with that, I pray that you're edified, man. And until next time, shalom.
Shalom.